You're listening to Release Your Resistance with Bex Beltran, episode 15. Welcome to Release Your Resistance. This is Bex. The only reason why any of us don't have what we want in life is because of our own resistance. Right now, I'm learning how to recognize and release my resistance, and this podcast tells you how you can release your resistance so that you can live the exact life that you want. Let's get started. In our last episode, we discussed my beloved morning ritual and how it's my favorite part of my day and how I have learned so much about myself and continue to learn as a result of writing. I'm curious about you. Did you consider a morning ritual for yourself or maybe another time of day? Did you give writing a try or change the way that you write to tap into your own inner knowledge in a different way? I want to hear about it. In this episode, I want to share some specifics with you. I want to tell you about some major breakthroughs and interesting realizations and endearing connections I have made as a result of my morning writing ritual. I hope you'll be inspired by the breakthroughs I've had and consider finding a way of discovering your own breakthroughs. I really believe the answers you seek are inside of you. But back to me. I love when I have a great writing session and I know I'm on to you when I see what I'm really thinking, when I notice the true, honest, authentic thoughts that are hiding behind what I might assume are perfectly valid, rational, reasonable justifications. My writing and my understanding of myself and of my own human behavior has gotten so much more real and helpful to me as I have dropped my ego and dropped my resistance and really been willing to explore and dig deeper into some of my less than flattering or not so empowering thoughts. It's as if some of these thoughts have a grasp or a clamp on my ability and on my potential. And if I am able to gently and carefully tease the grasp open, if I can loosen the clamp bit by bit, I can eventually crack it wide open. And then all that potential can expand and move freely. But it couldn't while I had those resistant, disempowering thoughts surrounding and suffocating it. This expansion is the value of thought work and self-coaching. In fact, this is why having awareness around what you're thinking and getting coaching or coaching yourself is so valuable and worth the investment. And here's some more truth about my writing. Some days are better than others. But all days are great, except for the days that I don't write. Those days are just good or maybe okay. Sometimes I sit down on my purple couch after having prepared my coffee, lit a candle, and chosen the morning's perfect color, and I'll write morning pages, the date and the time. And then I'll just stare at the page. I feel like I don't know what to write because I don't want to write a mundane description of what I did the day before, and I don't want to complain about the current topic that's bugging me. So I wonder, what should I write about? Oftentimes, I'll just have a list of things on my mind, like things I want to get done that day or tasks that are hanging over my head. And I'll feel like writing those out just to get them out of my head, but I don't really want my morning pages to become a collection of to-do lists. Sometimes I'll daydream. Whenever I can remember an actual dream that I had while sleeping, I try to recall it and capture it as much as possible in writing because I really believe this is my subconscious, and I am so curious what weird, convoluted message it has to share with me. And it has been so fun to stumble across a dream description that I wrote months ago and completely forgot about, to read about it later is just so funny because the dreams are so imaginative and weird, and I wonder, where did that come from? I've noticed the more I write my dreams, the better I am able to remember them in order to write them. And the value of writing about my dreams isn't really in writing a play-by-play of what happened in the dream. It's more in what the awake me makes the elements of the dream mean. Since I've started being more intentional about writing and interpreting my dreams during my morning ritual, and since I've started having frequent dream discussions and interpretation sessions with my muse, I feel like I'm getting better about understanding the subconscious clues and messages that dreams can provide. Okay, quick interruption. Did you just notice that I mentioned my muse? Yes, I am lucky enough to have a muse in my life. She is a real person who I know in real life, but she's also like a beautiful, magical fairy who inspires me and gives me ideas and makes me question my own thinking and shows me alternative viewpoints. We have a really unique relationship that spans a lot of different categories. She's one of my best friends. We have been coworkers. We are co-conspirators and collaborators. She's been a client of my coaching, and I consider her my muse because she represents the ideal woman I want to work with in my coaching practice and in creating content for this podcast. And eventually, she and I will be creating some other fun and interesting things together too. So, just in case you were wondering, I have a muse who I discuss dreams and everything else with. And if you have the opportunity to have this kind of relationship in your life, I recommend it. Okay, but back to the writing process. When I do sit down in the morning and I want to have a good writing session, what I have found works the best is just to get started. Write what I'm thinking, write what I notice, and usually it's like priming the pump. And once it gets started, it just flows right out of me. Sometimes I can't write fast enough, so I'll start a sentence with, there are two things I want to say about this, just to try to trigger my memory to remember the second thing once I'm done writing about the first thing. It's so funny. Sometimes I'll think, I have nothing to write about. I'm still waking up, nothing new or earth-shattering is on my mind, and I'll just pose an innocent little question to myself that will blossom into an in-depth analysis of what I'm thinking. I love those moments. I love how the mind, or my ego, is tricked into opening up to something my inner voice wants to get out. An example of this type of innocent question turning into a whole thing is the time I had a writing prompt written in the margin of my journal. It was, "What's my mood right now?" That sounds like it could have been a one-word answer, but as I really dropped into myself to think of what my mood really was, I noticed it was frantic. Frantic. Interesting, right? It was about 5:30 on a quiet morning. I was just sitting calmly by myself, doing my favorite thing, drinking my favorite drink, picking up on the light scent of my sweet almond blossom candle. And when I checked in with myself, I noticed I was feeling frantic. So then I got curious about what I could do with that feeling, which is interesting because normally I would have backed it up to find out what thought was causing me to feel that way. But on this day, I decided to accept instead of resist the feeling and explore my options. And the breakthrough was that I actually came up with a few ways to move forward in my frantic mood. When I relaxed into that feeling with acceptance instead of fear, the mind in me started to relax because it realized there was no threat. So then it started to come up with solutions. Amazing. Another time that allowing instead of resisting what I was thinking led to an amazing breakthrough was when I noticed myself thinking some really unhelpful thoughts about myself. It was in the weeks leading up to launching this podcast. I was recruiting my friends, family, and all of my connections to join my launch squad, to give this podcast the best possible entrance into the world. I was planning a launch lunch to celebrate the podcast's launch and really just to have another reason to get together with all my favorite people. Shout out to you if you were a member of the launch squad and or if you joined us at the launch lunch. Thank you so much. But back to that morning's writing. One of the unhelpful thoughts I was thinking was, maybe everyone's just being nice to me and no one really believes in me. My self-coaching training and practice teaches me to notice that thought and notice the results that thought is creating, and then intentionally decide to keep that thought or replace it with a different thought. But that morning, as I was writing, I had a breakthrough. I decided to allow that unhelpful thought to be possible instead of resisting it. So as I released the resistance to thinking the thought, everyone's just being nice to me and maybe no one really believes in me, I realized, yeah, everyone is being nice to me. That is wonderful. I am so lucky. And then I asked myself, what does believe in mean? Had I ever asked myself that before? Did I even know what I meant when I thought that and when I judged myself and apparently others with that thought? No one really believes in me. I translated believe in to mean sure that this would work, meaning the podcast. And I realized, well, of course I'm not sure that this will work. This is trial and error. This is experimentation on my journey. This will lead me to the doorstep of what is next for me. And in allowing that and realizing that, I also remembered that creating the content for this podcast has flowed so effortlessly and joyfully right out of me. And it has been so fun and interesting and creative and enlightening. So even before I had launched a single episode, this podcast was already working in giving me the energy and the experience that I wanted. What an amazing message and lesson, because now I know that as my mind is offering me less than desirable thoughts, I can just accept them to see what I can learn from them and realize from them instead of trying to resist them. What a breakthrough. I don't need a breakthrough every day. Some days do seem more mundane, and some days I notice myself mind wandering more than writing. When I catch myself doing that, I try to capture what I was thinking about. But if it was external to me, like a work situation or things I need to remember to buy at the store, I try not to write those things down. So even though most of my day-to-day writing doesn't produce breakthroughs in the moment, I often find breakthroughs when I go back and reread what I wrote last week, last month, or last year. Sometimes with hindsight and perspective, and knowing how things ended up turning out, I can see where the initial seed of a thought was considered months earlier, or I can see my initial doubt that turned out to be unfounded. It's fun to read the novel I write about myself for myself. So for the rest of this episode, I want to share with you a few more of the breakthroughs I have made during writing or reading what I've written. There have been so many, and I'm sure so many more to come. So this is just a little sampling. Some of these are minor breakthroughs, just things that made me go, huh. And some of these were super inspirational in the moment, and I'm so glad I've taken action on them and incorporated them into my life. And overall, this entire podcast is a byproduct of all the mixed together breakthroughs I have had while writing my morning pages over the past few years. The bumper sticker for the first breakthrough I want to tell you about is, I need to live it to learn it. This one came about when I was answering a prompt I had written for myself about an unwelcome surprise. I had been consuming a lot of business building advice, videos, blogs, and webinars, and my unwelcome surprise was that I thought they weren't working for me as advertised. I thought the online gurus were either glossing over the important details or maybe I had selective hearing. What that told me, what I realized during that writing that morning, was that everything I need to learn, I really need to actively learn it for myself in my own situation, with my own business, in my own coaching practice, not just in theory, not just conceptually. I need to live it to learn it. This was a very helpful breakthrough for me because I like to consume and ruminate on what I learn, and it makes me feel smart to have all this knowledge. But if I don't try it for myself and apply it, do I retain it? Do I understand it? Does it do anything for me? So, as you can guess, one of the outcomes of that breakthrough is this podcast. This is me putting into practice what I learned. This is me not just consuming content, but creating it. This is me living it so I can really learn it. Another breakthrough I had during writing happened at the end of a month when I was rereading what I had written at the beginning of the month. I was noticing that my writing and thoughts in those earlier weeks seemed to be centered around regret and shoulds and expectations. I didn't have a lot of compassion for myself or for my thinking. I have a habit of elevating my expectations and putting them on a pedestal. And if those expectations are not met in the past and maybe even still today, I make it mean terrible things. So that morning, I realized I could ask myself, is this expectation aligned with my intention? Oh, what a beautiful, helpful question. Oftentimes, my expectations are a result of default thinking habits or societal suggestions. But if my current intentions have nothing to do with those old thinking patterns, and if society's opinion of me doesn't matter, then are those expectations even valid? It's a good question, right? Here's an example of that in case it's hard to follow. When I plan a party, I go all out. I have a theme, I plan a menu, I think of the tablescape, I research decorations, I curate a music video playlist. I do it all. It's so much fun for me until it's not. I can definitely get into over-planning mode, and that's when I start to feel a little frantic, and that's when my expectations are super high. For example, one New Year's Eve, I had my husband make a special trip to Bed Bath & Beyond to buy a Lazy Susan. You know, one of those rotating plates you can put spices on in your cupboard. The reason I needed this Lazy Susan on New Year's Eve is because I really needed the clock-themed centerpiece I was making to rotate, since each side of it had a different New Year's Eve greeting. What? I am sure once the party got started, no one even cared that the centerpiece could rotate. If I pause and think, what were my true intentions with planning the party? It was to delight my guests, to enjoy myself, and to celebrate one of my favorite holidays with people I love. I wanted us to catch up and tell stories and make memories. Having a rotating clock centerpiece, that expectation did not align with my intention. My expectation, that was fueled by my franticness and all the cool decorating examples I found on Pinterest, was that every detail of that party be perfect and amazing. My intention would never be to force my friends to fawn over a rotating centerpiece. That was the definition of my expectation not aligning with my intention. Think about some expectations that you are holding high right now. Are they aligned with your intention? Are they really important to you? The third breakthrough I want to tell you about can be summed up as revel in revealing the resistance. For some reason, this phrase has popped up for me in the past few days. To me, it means valuing what I learn when I'm willing to be open and honest and interested in what I am resisting. This is in line with what I mentioned earlier about being curious about my unhelpful thoughts and allowing them and exploring them instead of just resisting them. One morning, as I was writing my morning pages, I decided to answer a prompt that I had skipped the day before because I had so much to write about that day. I didn't even need a prompt. By the way, I do sometimes wonder when that happens if I'm secretly avoiding a prompt and telling myself I'd rather write something else. But I just noticed that suspicion and kept going. So the prompt was, what are my top 3 confident areas right now and why? This is a really good prompt because it reminds me and you, if you decide to use it in your own writing, to really seek out areas of confidence and notice the thoughts that create the confidence and then try to capitalize on those thoughts and confidence in other areas or strengthen them. This is the whole idea of doing a last best thing model. So that morning, I was looking forward to answering this prompt. It was going to be so good. And then I noticed as I thought, okay, what's the first area of confidence to explore? I heard myself think, yeah, but wow. I was negotiating my way out of my own area of confidence. So interesting. In the past, my positive self-talk self may have shushed the yeah but voice in order to explore my confidence, just like the prompt suggested. But I am a resistance researcher, and I know that I have so much to learn from my resistance. So I asked myself, yeah, but what? And I got so much information. The area of confidence that had immediately popped into my mind was that I am doing a great job in producing and posting this podcast each week. Sounds pretty good, right? I am confident in this area. My inner dialogue went like this. What's the first area of confidence to explore? I'm doing a great job in producing and posting this podcast each week. And then a sneaky little voice said, yeah, but... And like I said, in other times, I would have ignored the yeah, but this day, I needed to pause to understand. The yeah, but was that I don't like how I feel behind in my writing and recording and editing schedule. When I first decided to create this podcast, I promised myself that I would work well in advance. I would have an editorial calendar planned out. I would have my episodes written and recorded for an entire month in advance. I never wanted to feel rushed or be caught off guard by a technology glitch or getting sick or an emergency. By the way, that whole last sentence is translation for, I want to be in control of everything. That's an interesting realization, right? What does it mean if I think I'm in control? Because, of course, we all know none of us are in control of anything really, except for our own thoughts, and then not even if we don't have awareness around them. So here's me getting awareness of my resistant thoughts. When I thought I was about to have a little congratulatory love fest about all the things I can feel confident about, what a surprise downer. But not really a downer, right? Because I do love learning and noticing, and I am so captivated by resistance right now. So this was actually kind of fun for me. So, surprise, I get to do some deep exploration of my thoughts about my rules for myself and this podcast, and what being prepared means, and how I am prioritizing my time and my work. And it let me question the value of having podcasts recorded a month in advance. In fact, that goes back to the earlier realization. Is the expectation of having my podcast ready early aligned with my intention for this podcast? Wow, that is like 2 breakthroughs in one. So much to think about and wonder about and learn about and write about, right? So just to recap, a few of the breakthroughs I have had as a result of my beloved morning ritual. Number 1. Accepting instead of resisting a feeling leads to ways to move forward. Number 2, allowing an unhelpful thought to be possible instead of resisting it leads to learning about myself. Number 3, I need to live it to learn it. Number 4, is this expectation aligned with my intention? And number 5, revel in revealing the resistance. When I started writing this episode, I had not planned out which breakthroughs I would tell you about. And now that I'm summarizing the specific ones I did decide to share with you, I'm having another breakthrough during writing because these are so intertwined. It's almost like the message of allowing and not resisting and being open to learning is breaking through repeatedly with different lessons and in different ways. It's showing me that I need to learn things and realize them over and over to really learn and internalize and believe them. Wow, this is something to pay attention to. As I'm telling you about all of these breakthroughs that I've had for myself, I'm wondering if this is meaningful to you. Maybe not. It's my learning and my realizations about my life. What does it have to do with you? Am I telling you that you should write daily so that you can have these breakthroughs as well? Well, maybe so. But more, I think I'm trying to convince you of your amazing intellect and intuition about how you can lead your life. I am a coach, so I do want people to hire me for coaching sessions, but not so I can tell you what to do or tell you what's best for you. I truly 100% believe that the answers I need are inside of me. I know what's best for me. And the answers for you are inside of you. You know what's best for you. Why would anyone else be able to tell you what you should do, what you should think, who you should be, or how you should live? The biggest overarching breakthrough I have understood as a result of my daily writing ritual is realizing that I do have all the answers for myself. I love research. I love hearing other people's experiences and opinions and advice, not for them to tell me what I should do, just as a way of collecting more information so that I can decide for myself. I love being coached because my sweet little mind is so tricky. It loves to dress up all of my thoughts as 100% cold, hard facts. And when I try to question if those thoughts are really facts, my sneaky little mind assures me, oh, absolutely, this is a definite fact. No need to poke around, no need to investigate. So it's helpful for me to have a disinterested third party like a coach to question if those thoughts really are facts, because they aren't. And then I can decide what to do with them from there. So my hope for you, while not telling you what you should do, is for you to find a way to tap into your own inner knowledge. I don't know if it's a daily writing ritual, but it probably can't hurt. Or picking up a tarot deck, or meditation, or interviewing your inner voice, or having a coach ask you questions about what you're thinking. But whatever method you try out, please do consider giving it a try. Please do consider tapping into your own inner knowledge and your intuition to guide you, to answer your own questions, and contemplate your next steps. It has worked out so well for me, and I can't imagine that it wouldn't be helpful for you too. And that is it for this episode. In the next episode, I'm going to tell you about another one of my favorite teachers. She has been a major influence in my writing ritual. Her name is Eileen Shu, and I love her so much, and I cannot wait to tell you why. And for all of my favorites this week, meaning you're on my email list, I recorded another video for you, and this one was impromptu and unscripted and totally inspired in the moment. And it's another breakthrough that I had, not during my writing that morning, but because of it. And I guess I should mention, I did record the video. This was a few weeks ago, so it's before this is being posted, before all of our changes in our life and staying home and social distancing. So I do make reference of going to the gym, but of course that's not possible in today's world. But that video is in your email this week along with this episode. So if you are not on my email list yet, please make sure you join so that you don't miss all the fun extras that I share with my favorite people. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of the breakthroughs that I have made during my morning ritual. I'll talk to you next week. This has been Release Your Resistance. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, make sure you're subscribed and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, think about someone who you know who would love this episode and share it with them. There should be a share button on your app if you're listening to this on your phone. If you'd like to continue this conversation one-on-one or in real time, come visit me on my site at beckspeed.org to see how we can work together.